I'm Trina and today I am reviewing the book Slammed by Colleen Hoover. Many of you guys know exactly how I felt about this book already because I was tweeting about it and I have already covered my brief feelings in my June wrap-up video. But if you just stumbled upon this review video, then let me warn you now that I did not like this book. I know everyone else loves it, but I didn't like it and I rated it 1 star. But if you loved it, I think that's great. Not every book is for every person. I'm definitely not saying that it's a bad book. I'm just saying that I did not like it. And I have had several of you guys tell me that even though you loved the book, you want to hear more of my reasons why I didn't like it, more in depth. So that is the purpose of this video. Just trying to kind of explain my unpopular opinion about this book. As a brief overview, I didn't like the writing, I didn't like the characters, I hated the relationship. I thought it was extremely problematic. I didn't like the way that the story progressed. It was cheap tricks in my opinion. Like, it was manipulation of the reader, throwing in some tragic events and just shock factor things just to kind of tug your heartstrings. And on top of the things I viewed as actually problematic, it also just deals with some topics that I never enjoy reading about no matter what book they may be in. It just didn't work for me. Just thinking about it is... If you have not heard what this book is about, let me briefly summarize it for you. This book follows our main character, Lake, who is moving to a new state from her childhood home because her father just unexpectedly passed away and her mother has had to take a job in another state in order to support the family. So Lake, her younger brother, and her mother have moved from Texas to Michigan, and the day they get there, she meets the boy that lives across the street and they hit it off immediately. They go on a date and have this amazingly strong connection right off the bat, and then there's a big reveal. There's this obstacle in the way of their relationship. The rest of the story explores, can their love overcome this obstacle and can they find a way to be together? And this is marketed as a new adult book, but this is the most YA book I feel like I've read all year. It's a book set in high school about high school problems, and it deals with some cliches that I feel are just very, very present in YA literature, so it was extremely YA to me. I would not call this a new adult book at all. If you like romance, if you trust other people's reviews who have really loved this book and don't happen to dislike the things that I dislike, which I can't tell you guys yet because it would be spoilers, then, you know, I think you should still check the book out. I wouldn't tell anyone to not pick up a book, but it didn't work for me, and now I'm going to try to tell you why, but that gets into the spoilery section. So if you have not read this book, please don't watch any further because it's about to get real spoilery in here. Bye-bye! Okay, so in the spoilery section, the thing that happens in chapter 4 that is the obstacle of this entire relationship and book is we find out that Will, the main love interest, is a teacher at Lake's new school. So it's a teacher-student relationship. This is something that I hate reading about no matter what book it is in. I don't find this appealing at all. I find it disturbing. In this book, Will is 21 and the Lake is 18. So it's not like an underage thing, it's not a non-consensual relationship. They do want to be together, they're both legally adults, and it's not like a huge age gap. But I don't like reading about it. I think it's overdone, it's very cliche. I didn't find the teacher-student setup to be believable in Slammed at all because Will knew that Lake was 18 going into it, and he says in the book, there's a line where he says, I knew you were 18, but it never even crossed my mind that you might still be in high school. Okay, dude, but you teach a class every day of your life with 18-year-olds in it. It should have at least crossed your mind. It should have crossed your mind. That didn't fly for me. I also just didn't buy that this school would have allowed him to be a teacher there. I don't know if all school boards have the rule that you can't teach in a school that you attended, but schools that I went to and other schools I know of do have a rule set up like that. If you attended a school, you can't come back and student teach there because you're too close to the age of the students you're teaching. You probably went to school with them, so it just lends itself to a not very professional environment, and I just didn't really buy that he was a student teacher in charge of his own classroom with people that he'd gone to school with, so he was hanging out with them outside of school. That's just not a situation I think that schools are really comfortable with. So I also really didn't like the fact that death and tragedy and grief were used as plot twists in this book. Throughout the story, things are revealed about Will's parents and how he lost both of his parents in a tragic accident, and then things are revealed about Lake's mother also having cancer and dying. This story is not a story about grief. It's not marketed as a book about cancer or loss. This is a romance. So the grief stuff has to take a back seat, and I felt like it was thrown in for shock value in my opinion. And that probably wouldn't bother a lot of readers, but I wasn't really comfortable with that because I've lost my mother to cancer when I was a child. So I don't enjoy books that treat it like this is a plot twist. I'm gonna do this to make the reader be moved to my characters. Like, you couldn't be sympathetic to my characters otherwise. The biggest problem I had with the book though was Will. I just did not like him as a character. Oh, he made me so mad. There were just so many problems in the relationship, and specifically I felt like there were problems in how he treated Lake. He frequently made decisions for her. Their very first date, he didn't even ask her if she wanted to go out. He just said, hey, I'm free tomorrow night. Why don't we do something? I'll pick you up at 7. And then he turned around and walked away. He didn't even give her a chance to say yes or no. Now, obviously she did want to go do it, but it just was kind of controlling or demanding to me. And then later on, when they do know that he's the teacher, he insists that they should not be together and she needs to transfer out of his classroom. So she does exactly what he tells her to do, and she goes and gets a request form, which he, as her teacher, has to sign. And when she takes it to him to sign, as he requested, he does not sign it and he crumples it up. Don't do that. You should have at least signed it and then given her the choice. Don't make a decision for her. You're making her stay here when you just told her you didn't want her to stay here, but you do. And make up your mind and stop controlling her. He was jealous anytime she hung out with any other guys in school, even though he had told her she needed to move on. It was just so much constant back and forth, and I frequently saw him place the blame on her. Will was controlling and manipulative and jealous all throughout the book. He shows up behind her a lot of times. It was kind of giving me like a stalkery vibe, and he frequently said things like, I'm not good for you. I want you to live your life as a normal high school student. Who does this remind you of? He reminded me of Edward Cullen 2.0. This felt like a contemporary version of Twilight to me, and it really bothers me that as a book community, people are so quick to throw out judgment on Twilight. This character in Slammed does those same things, and yet people praise this book all the time. And he's not a 100-year-old vampire that's from a totally different time when things were different, and he doesn't have vampire senses to just know when to show up. So there's not even an excuse for Will's behavior, and his tragic backstory about his parents, I don't think that's an excuse either. It just rubbed me the wrong way because I saw a lot of parallels of behavior that has been condemned in some characters but is praised in others, and I don't really understand why we have that distinction. The ways that he behaved in their relationship were very unhealthy in my opinion, and the bottom line comes down to they didn't convince me that they actually had a strong connection worth fighting for, because this was a case of insta love. She meets him on like page 2 and immediately they have a strong connection, which I was repeatedly told that they had a strong connection, but I was never shown when they had developed that connection. Like, there was one date before all this stuff went down. So I wasn't really convinced that I want these characters to work it out and get together in the end. If all of that wasn't enough, I also didn't enjoy the way that the book wrapped up. The conclusion was not based on these two characters coming to any sort of realization or acting on their own after everything that they've gone through. It was forced by a scene of sexual assault from a side character. So this wasn't even a case where it could be used as character development. So sexual assault was used as a plot device just to force a resolution. Towards the end of the book, one of Lake's classmates kind of rushes her in a dark parking lot and proceeds to kiss her despite the fact that she protests, pushes him off, and then he kisses her again and it backs her up against his truck, pinning her in. So of course Will walks out and sees this happening, and this causes Will to go into a jealous rage, beat the kid up, and therefore lose his job, and providing the out that he needed to be together with Lake because he's no longer a teacher at that school. And the thing about it is he didn't even get fired. He willingly chose to leave after this incident came to light, and he went to another school to teach, which why could he not have just done that in the first place? I felt like this was a situation that he could have done on his own without that scene, but that scene was just used to force his hand. I don't know. I didn't like that that's how the resolution happened. I wish that they had worked it out on their own or just broken up, to be honest. I don't really have much else to say about this book. It just dealt with topics and themes that I don't enjoy. Like I said, this is the only book I've read by Colleen Hoover, and I would try her other books in the future because I know that she has an intense fan following and she's got a few books, so maybe there would be another one that is more suited to what I enjoy reading about. But I don't know, at this point I'm not really in a rush to pick up anything else by hers because I'm just not really that into like new adult romance, I guess, but I wouldn't write her off completely based on only one book that I've read. Anyway, I really appreciate you guys watching this video. Thank you so much for allowing me to express my thoughts and opinions. I hope you enjoyed this book more than I did, but if you felt this way too, hopefully maybe just hearing someone else talk about it maybe kind of validates your opinion, because it can be very lonely out there when you hate a book that everyone else loves. Believe me, I know. Thanks for hearing me out. If you want to let me know what you thought of the book down in the comments, go for it. If there's a Colleen Hoover book that you would recommend that I try next, let me know what that is down below too. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the comments. Bye!